Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasme Sri Gurave Namaha. Om Ganana Antva Ganmavamahe Kavin Kavinam Upavashravastramam Jeshtarajam Brahmanan Brahmanaspata Anushrunnoti Bisi Rasadanam. Om Mahaganadipataye Namaha. Om Mahaganadipataye Namaha. Hari Om. Om Keshwaya Namaha, Om Narayana Namaha, Om Madhvaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Vishnave Namaha, Rudraya Namaha, Trivikramaya Namaha, Vamanaya Namaha, Srivaraya Namaha, Vamanaya Namaha, Sridharaya Namaha, Rishikeshaya Namaha, Padmanabhaya Namaha, Damodaraya Namaha, Sankarshnaya Namaha, Vasudevaya Namaha, Pradyumnaya Namaha, Niruddhaya Namaha, Purushottamaya Namaha, Dokshaya Namaha, Narasimhaya Namaha, Achyutaya Namaha, Jaradraya Namaha, Upendraya Namaha, Hare Namaha, Sri Krishnaya Namaha, Hari Om. Dear friends, we came to the chapter 41 chapter, Krishna and Balarama coming to Mathura. As you know, I explained yesterday, Akrura has been to Gokula and brought Lord Krishna and Lord Balarama with him in the chariot. They are entering the Mathura city now. In the 41 chapter, a description how Lord Krishna entered the city of Mathura, killed a washerman and bestowed benedictions upon a weaver and a garland maker named Sudama. After showing his Vishnu form to Akrura in the waters of the Yamuna lake and receiving Akrura's prayers was done yesterday. It was very nice. Lord Krishna withdrew that vision just as an actor winds up his performance. Akrura emerged from the water and in a great amazement approached the Lord, who asked him whether he had seen something wonderful while bathing. Akrura replied, whatever wonderful things there are in the realms of water, earth or sky, all have their existence within you. So Akrura said, all the existence of the nature are within you. Thus, when one has seen you, nothing remains to be unseen. Nothing remains to be seen. Akrura then began driving the chariot again. Krishna, Balarama, and Akrura reached Mathura late in the afternoon. After meeting up with Nanda Maharaja and the other cowards who had gone on the ahead, Krishna and Akrura to return home, promising to visit him there after he had killed Kamsa. Akrura, unhappy, bid the Lord goodbye. So Lord Krishna and Balarama want to get down from the chariot in the entrance to the Mathura city. But Akrura want to take them to the Kamsa's palace. But Krishna and Balarama took the covered boys with them to see the splendid city of Mathura. They went to King Kamsa to inform, but Akrura unhappily went alone to King Kamsa to inform him that Krishna and Balarama had come and went home. Krishna and Balarama took the covered boys with them to see the splendid city of Mathura. As they all entered the Mathura, the women of the city eagerly came out of their houses to see Lord Krishna. They had often heard about him and had long since developed a deep attraction for him. But now that they were actually seeing him, they were overwhelmed with happiness, and all their distress due to his absence was eradicated. Krishna and Balarama then came upon Kamsa's wicked washerman. Krishna asked him for some of the first-class garments he was carrying, but he refused, and he even chastised the two lords. At this, Krishna became very angry and beheaded the man with his fingertips. The washerman assistants, seeing his untimely end, dropped their bundles of cloths on the spot and ran off in all directions. Krishna and Balarama then took some of the garments they especially fancied. Next, a weaver approached the two lords and arrayed them suitably, for which service he received from Krishna opulence in this life and liberation in the next. Krishna and Balarama then went to the house of the garland maker Sudama. Sudama offered them his full obeisances, worshipped them by bathing their feet and offering them such items as argya and sandalwood paste and chanted prayers in their honor. Then he adorned them with garlands and fragrant flowers. Pleased, the lords offered him whatever benedictions he wished, and then they moved on. So this is the summary what I said of this chapter 41. Now the shloka and meaning starts. Shloka. Shuka Uvacha, as you know, Shuka Maharshi is telling the Parikshit Maharaja, the whole episode. Shuka Uvacha, Stuvattastasya Bhagavan Darshayatva Jale Vapuhu Bhuyam Samaharat Krishno Nato Natyamivatmanaha. Shukadeva said, while Akrura was still offering prayers, the Supreme Lord Krishna withdrew his form that he had revealed in the water, just as an actor winds up his performance. Lord Krishna withdrew from Akrura's sight the Vishnu form, along with the vision of spiritual sky and its eternal inhabitants. The shloka number 2, Sopi chantarhitam vikshna jaladhanmajja sattvarah krutva chavashakam sarvaham vismito ratama bhagavat. When Akrura saw the vision disappear, he came out of the water and quickly finished his various ritual duties. He then returned to the chariot, astonished. Tamapruchyasdravishikeshaha kim te drustamivadbhutam bhumau yetito yeva tatam twam klakshayamahe. Lord Krishna said, Lord Krishna asked Akrura, have you seen something wonderful on the earth, in the sky, or in the water? From your appearance, we think you have. Akrura said, whatever wonderful things in the earth, sky, or water contain all exist in you, since you encompass everything. When I am seeing you, what I have not seen. And now that I am seeing you, O Supreme Absolute Truth, in whom reside all amazing things on the earth, in the sky, and in the water, what amazing things could I see in this world? Akrura has now realized that Lord Krishna is not merely his nephew, he is Lord Vishnu. Ityukta chodayamasa skandanam Gandhi nisuta Mathurama Nayamdramam Krishnan Chaiva Dinatyaye. With these words, Akrura, the son of Gandhini, began driving the chariot onward. At the end of the day, he arrived in Mathura with Lord Balarama and Lord Krishna. At the end of the day, he arrived in Mathura city. Wherever they passed along the road, O king, the village people came forward and looked upon the two sons of Vasudeva with great pleasure. In fact, the villagers could not withdraw their eyes from them. Nanda Maharaja and the other residents of Vrindavana, having reached Mathura ahead of the chariot, had stopped at a garden on the outskirts of the city to wait for Krishna and Balarama to come. Nanda and others reached Mathura first because the chariot carrying Krishna and Balarama was delayed by Akrura's bathing. Tan sametyaha Bhagavan Akruram Jagadishwaraha Gruhitva Paninam Panim Prashchitam Prasanniva. After joining the Nanda and others, the Supreme Lord Krishna, the control of the universe, took humble Akrura's hand in his own and smiling spoke as follows. They reached Mathura and Lord Krishna is telling, take the chariot and enter the city ahead of us. Then go home. After resting here a while, we will go to see the city. Lord Krishna said he wanted to take few minutes rest there, and he is telling Akrura, take the chariot and go to the city ahead of us. You go before us, then go home. After going to Mathura city, say Kamsa, then you go home. After resting here a while, we will go to the city. We will go to see the city. Akrura vacha Naham bhavadvam rahitah pravekshe Mathuram prabho Tuktam narghasimam nata Bhaktam te bhaktavatsala. Akrura said, O master, without the two of you, I shall not enter Mathura. I am your devotee, O Lord, so it is not fair for you to abandon me before entering the city. You are always affectionate to your devotees. Agacchayamageha naha sanatan kurvadokshajaha sahagrajaha sagopalai savridishta savruttamaha. Come, let us go to my house with your elder brother, the coward men, and your companions. O best of friends, O transcendental Lord, in this way, please grace my house with its master. Punihi padarajasa grihanno grihamedina yache chena nutushdan tupyanti pitaragnaya suraha. I am simply an ordinary householder attached to your ritual sacrifices. So please purify my home with the dust of your lotus feet. By that act of purification, my forefathers, the sacrificial fires, and the demigods will all become satisfied. Okay, Shraddha. Amanijangri Masit Choklo Balin Mahan Aishwaryamatalam Nebe Gatim Chaikantinattum Ya. By bathing your feet, the exalted Bali Maharaja attained not only glorious fame and unequaled power, but also the final destination of pure devotees. Apastengra Vanejanyastrin Lokan Shuchiyo Punan Shirasadattaya Parvaha Swairayata Sagaratmajaha. The water of the river Gangas has purified the three worlds, having become transcendental by bathing your feet first. Lord Shiva accepted that water on his head, and by that water's grace, the sons of King Sagara attained to heaven. O Lord of Lords, Master of the universe, O you whose glories it is most pious to hear and chant, O best of the Yadus, O you whose fame is recounted in excellent poetry, O Supreme Lord Narayana, I offer you my obeisances. Lord Akrura submitted his obeisances to Lord Narayana and Krishna and Balarama in the chariot, and he offered. Now, Lord Krishna is telling him, this is called Bhagavanu Vacha Ayasye Bhavatu Geha Mahavarya Samanvitaha Yadu Chikradruham Hatva Mitiriste Savrut Priyam. Supreme Lord Krishna said, I will come to your house with my elder brother, but first I must satisfy my friends and well-wishers by killing the enemy of the Yadu clan. So, Shukavacha Eva Mukto Bhagavata Sokruro Vimanayava Purim Pravista Kamsaya Karma Vyadyagraham Yayo. Shuka Maharshi is telling Parikshit Raj, thus addressed by the Lord, Akrura entered the city with a heavy heart. He was not willing to go himself, but he went because of Krishna's suggestion. He informed King Kamsa of the success of his mission of bringing Krishna and Balarama to Mathura and then went home. Atha parane Bhagavan Krishna Sankarshananvitaha Mathura Prabhishit Gopai Dirdukshe Parivaritaha. Lord Krishna desired to see Mathura, so toward evening he took Lord Balarama and the covered boys with him and entered the city. After taking some few minutes rest, he went to the city walking with Balarama and covered boys. Dadarshataam Sputika Tunga Gopuraha Dwaram Bruhadeva Dema Kapata Toranam Tamro Rakashtam Varikadasura Sudha Mudhyana Ramyo Pavano Pashobhitam Savarna Shungata Harmanashkute Shuni Sabhabibhivasnaira Praskrutam Vaidurya Vajramana Nilam Rudraye Mukta Hritpava Labeshu Medishu Justeshu Jwala Mukandratame Kuttame Pravistapara Varta Vairnaditam Samsiktaratyana Pana Margacharturam Prakirnamalyam Kurala Tandalam. Apurna Kumbha Kumbherdadit Chindano Kitai Prasudina Prasuna Deepavalibhim Sampalavnyai Savrandara Bakrama Ketubi Salankrata Dwaragriham Sapattakai. The Lord saw Mathura with its tall gates and household entrances made of crystal, its immense archways and main doors of gold, its granaries and other storehouses of copper and brass, and its impregnable moats, beautifying the city, were pleasant gardens and parks. The main intersections were fashioned of gold, and there were mansions with private pleasure gardens, along with guild hills and many other buildings. Mathura resounded with the calls of peacocks and pet turtle doves, who sat in the small opening of the lattice windows and on the gem-studded floors, and also on the columned balconies and on the ornate rafters in front of the houses. These balconies and rafters were adorned with Vaiduria stones, diamonds, and crystal quartz, sapphires, coral, pearls, and emeralds. All the royal avenues and commercial streets were sprinkled with water, as were the side roads and courtyards, and flower garlands, newly grown sprouts, parched grains, and rice had been scattered about everywhere. Gracing the house of doorways were elaborately decorated pots filled with water, which were bedecked with mango leaves smeared with the yogurt and sandalwood paste, and encircled by flower petals and ribbons. Near the pots were flags, rows of lamps, bunches of flowers, and the trunks of banana and betel nut trees. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura gives this description of the elaborately decorated pots. On either side of each doorway, above the scattered rice, is a pot. Encircling each pot are flower petals. On its neck are ribbons, and in its mouth are leaves of mango and other trees. Above each pot, on a gold plate, are rows of lamps. A trunk of a banana tree stands on either side of each pot, and a betel nut tree trunk stands in front and also behind. Flags lean against the pots. The text number 424. Tam sampravishtam vasudeva nandanam vrtau vayaskrairnara devavratanam drishtva samiyastruta purastriyo harmani chaivarurvasrumutsuka. The women of Mathura hurriedly assembled and went forth to see the two sons of Vasudeva. As they entered the city on the king's road, surrounded by their cowherd boyfriends, some of the women, my dear king, eagerly climbed to the roofs of their houses to see them. So this is the first time Lord Balarama and Lord Krishna are coming to Mathura, and they wanted to walk in the Mathura city themselves. That's why they sent Akrura earlier than them to tell Kamsa they have arrived, and then went home. Some of the ladies put their clothes and ornaments on backwards, others forgot one of their earrings or ankle bells, and others applied makeup to one eye but not the other. The ladies are in a hurry to come and see Lord Krishna. The ladies were very eager to see Lord Krishna, and in their haste and excitement, they forgot themselves. Those who were taking their meals abandoned them. Others went out without finishing their baths or messages. Women who were sleeping at once rose when they heard the commotion, and mothers breastfeeding their infants simply put them aside. The lotus-eyed Lord, smiling as he recalled his bold pastimes, captivated those ladies' mind and his glances. He walked with the gait of a lordly elephant in rut, creating a festival for their eyes with his transcendental body, which is the source of pleasure for the divine goddess of fortune. Shloka number 28. Društva muhushchutra manudrachate tahastasaha tatte kshanotpida tusu dokshanalabdamana anandamurtimapagavya drushvalata drushvatmalabdam drushtatvacho jahanandirita marindamadhim. The ladies of Mathura had repeatedly heard about Krishna, and thus as soon as they saw him, their hearts melted. They felt honored that he was sprinkling upon them the nectar of his glances and broad smiles. Taking him into their hearts through their eyes, they embraced him, the embodiment of all ecstasy, and as their bodily hair stood on end, O subduer of enemies. They forgot the unlimited distress caused by his absence. Their lotus faces blooming with affection, the ladies who had climbed to the roofs of the mansions rained down showers of flowers upon Lord Balarama and Lord Krishna. They, they, they rained down the showers of flowers upon Lord Balarama and Lord Krishna. Dadyakshate sodapatre sugrundaira papainaha tavanarchumurmutadistatra tatra nijatayaha. Brahmayas standing along the ways honored the two lords with presentations of yogurt, unbroken harlequins, pots full of water, garlands, fragrant substances as sandalwood paste, and other items of worship. Uchu pauro aho gopyastaptaha kimicharan mahat ya haitamanupashyanti naraloka mahotsavo. The woman of Mathura exclaimed, "Oh, what a severe austerities the gopis must have performed to be able to regularly see Krishna and Balarama, who are the greatest source of pleasure for all mankind." Seeing a washerman approaching who had been dyeing some clothes, Krishna asked him for the finest laundered garments he had. Lord Krishna said, "Please give me suitable garments to the two of us who certainly deserve them. If you grant this charity, you will undoubtedly receive the greatest benefit," he told the washerman. Thus requested by the Supreme Lord, who is perfectly complete in all respects, that arrogant servant of the king Kamsa became angry and replied insultingly. The washerman said, "You impudent boys, you are accustomed to roaming the mountains and forests, and yet you had dare put on such clothes as these. These are the king's possessions you are asking for. Fools, get out of here quickly. Don't beg like this if you want to stay alive. When someone is too bold, the king's men arrest him and kill him and take all his property." As the washerman thus spoke brazenly, the son of Devaki became angry, and then merely with his fingertips he separated the man's head from his body. The washerman's assistants all dropped their bundles of cloths and fled down the road, scattering in all directions. Lord Krishna then took the clothes. Krishna and Balaram put on pairs of garments that especially pleased them, and then Krishna distributed the remaining clothes among the covered boys, leaving some scattered on the ground. Thereupon a weaver came forward and, feeling affection for the lords, nicely adorned their attire, the cloth, garments, and various colors. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that the weaver adorned the lords with cloth ornaments and earrings that looked just like jewels. The word Anuruptaha indicates that the colors matched there nicely. Sloka 41, Nana Lakshana Veshabhyam Krishna Ramo Virojitaha Solankruto Balagajo Pavarnivatito Tare Sito Site Tore. Krishna and Balarama looked resplendent, each in his own unequal, wonderfully ornamented outfit. They resembled a pair of young elephants, one white and one other black, decorated for a festive occasion. Pleased with the weaver, the Supreme Lord Krishna blessed him that after death he would achieve the liberation of attaining a form like the Lord's, and that while in this world he would enjoy supreme opulence, physical strength, influence, memory, and sensory vigor. The two lords then went to the house of the garland maker Sudama. When Sudama saw them, he at once stood up and then bowed down, placing his head on the ground. Sudama is a garland maker for Kamsa's palace. He is not the same Sudama who was the classmate of Krishna. He is different Sudama. When Sudama saw them, he at once stood up and then bowed down, placing his head on the ground. Sudama submitted his obeisance, namaste, to Lord Krishna. After offering them seats and bathing their feet, Sudama worshipped Argya Padya. Padya, you give the water for the bathing the water for feet, and worshipped Argya Padya, them, and then companions with Argya garlands, pan, sandalwood, pan, paste, and other presentations were given to Lord Krishna and Balarama. Sudama said, O Lord, my birth is now sanctified and my family free of contamination. Now that you both have come here, my forefathers, the demigods, the other gods, and great sages are certainly all satisfied with me. You two lords are the ultimate cause of this entire universe. To bestow sustenance and prosperity upon this realm, you have descended with your planetary expansion. Because you are the well-wishing friends and supreme soul of the whole universe, you regard all with unbiased vision. Therefore, although you reciprocate your devotees' loving worship, you always remain equally disposed toward all living beings. Please order me, your servant. I am your servant. Please order me to do whatever you wish. To be engaged by you in some service is certainly a great blessing for anyone. Sukadeva Goswami continued, O best of the kings, having spoken these words, Sudama, garden maker, flower maker, could understand what Krishna and Balarama wanted. Thus, with a great pleasure, he presented them with the garlands of fresh, fragrant flowers. So Sudama presented fresh garlands and the fresh, fragrant flowers. Beautifully adorned with these garlands, Krishna and Balarama were delightfully looking very nice, and so were their companions. The two lords then offered the surrendered Sudama, who was bowing down before them, whatever benedictions he desired. So Lord Krishna blessed those people who surrendered to him. Sudama chose unshakable devotion for Krishna. Sudama chose unshakable devotion for Lord Krishna, the supreme soul of all existence, friendship with his devotees, and transcendental compassion for all living beings. Not only did the Lord Krishna grant Sudama these benedictions, but he also awarded him strength, long life, fame, beauty, and ever-increasing prosperity for his family. Then Krishna and his elder brother took their leave. So they visited Sudama, the garland maker, and they blessed him for the natural harm, good strength, long life, fame, beauty, and ever-increasing prosperity for his family. Then Krishna and his elder brother Balarama took their leave of Sudama, the garland maker. We can see a clear difference between Lord Krishna's dealings with the nasty washerman and his dealing with the devoted florist Sudama. The Lord is as hard as thunderbolt for those who defy him, and as soft as a rose for those who surrender to him. That's what all the devotees of Vaishnavas should understand, that Lord is like a thunderbolt for those who defy him, and as soft as a rose for those who surrender to him. Therefore, we should all sincerely surrender to Lord Krishna, since that is clearly in our self-interest. To make achievement in our effort to make a progress in Bhakti Yoga, we should surrender to Lord Krishna, since that is clearly in our self-interest. Thus, and the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 41st chapter. 41st chapter is completed. Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsam Samhitayam Dashamaskande Purvarde Purapravesho Nama Ekacharitvam Shodhyayaha. 41st chapter is finished. We are starting the 42nd chapter. In the 42nd chapter, breaking of the sacrificed bow. The Kamsa arranged a bow ceremony for worshipping bow. The chapter describes the benediction of Thrivikra received the breaking of the sacrificial bow, the destruction of Kamsa's soldiers, the inauspicious omens Kamsa saw, and the festivities at the wrestling arena. After leaving Sudama's house, Lord Balarama and Krishna came upon Thrivikra, a young hunchbacked maidservant. A maidservant of Kamsa was Thrivikra. The girl was called Thrivikra, a hunchbacked maidservant of Kamsa, who was carrying a tray of fine ointments of Gandha, Sugandha lepana. The Lord asked her who she was and requested some ointment, that Gandha lepana from her. Entranced by his beauty and joking words, Trivikra gave both Krishna and Balarama a good deal of Sugandha lepana. In return, Krishna stepped on her toes with his lotus feet, took hold of her chin, and lifted dust, straightening her body and spine. The now beautiful, charming Trivikra then grabbed the edge of Krishna's upper cloth and asked him to come to her house. Krishna replied that after he had taken care of some business, he would certainly come and relieve her mental torment. Then the two lords continued their sightseeing tour of Mathura. As Krishna and Balarama walked along the king's road, the merchants worshipped them with various offerings. Krishna asked where the bow sacrifice was to take place. And when he arrived at the arena, he saw the wonderful bow which resembled Lord Indra's. Despite the god's protest, Krishna forcibly picked up the bow and easily strung it, and in an instant broke it in half, producing an ear-splitting sound that filled the heavens and struck terror in the heart of the Kamsa. Many gods attacked Krishna and Balarama, crying out, seize him, kill him. But Krishna and Balarama simply picked up the two halves of the bows and beat the gods to death. Next, the lords annihilated a company of soldiers sent by Kamsa, and then they left the arena and continued their tour. So quickly, Krishna and Balarama killed all those soldiers sent by Kamsa, and they took they broken the bow, the big bow. They left the arena and continued their tour. When the people of the city saw the amazing prowess of beauty of Krishna and Balarama, they thought they must be two chief gods. Indeed, as the residents of Mathura gazed upon the lords, they enjoyed all the blessings of the gopis had predicted. At sunset, Krishna and Balarama returned to the cowherds' camp for their evening meal. They then passed the night resting comfortably. But King Kamsa was not so fortunate. When he heard how Krishna and Balarama had easily broken the mighty bow and destroyed his soldiers, he spent the night in great anxiety. Both while awake and while dreaming, he saw many ill omens, portending his imminent death, and his fear ruined any chance of rest and sleep. At dawn, the wrestling festival began. Crowds of people from the city and outlying districts entered the arena and took their seats in the lavishly decorated galleries. Kamsa, his heart trembling, sat down on the royal dais and invited Nanda Maharaja and other cowherd men to come and sit in their places. And they did so after offering him their gifts. Musical overture then began as the sounds of the wrestlers clapping their arms resounded. The 42nd chapter, Kubjaya Mele Krupa, Dhanurbhanga, Kamsana Thalamala. Shukovacha, Shukumaran is telling Parikshit Raj, Athavrajan Rajapaten Madhavaha, Sriyam Guritanga Vilepa Bhajanam, Vilokya Kubjam Yuvatim Varananam, Prapachayantim Prasanda Sapradaha. Shukadev Maharshi said, as he walked down the king's road, Lord Madhava then saw a young hunchback woman with an attractive face who carried a tray of fragrant ointments as she walked along. She had a Sugandha lepana for Kamsa. The bestower of the ecstasy of love smiled and inquired from her as follows. According to Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura, the young hunchback girl was actually a partial expansion of the Lord's wife Satyabhama. The young hunchback girl was actually a partial expansion of the Lord's wife Satyabhama. Satyabhama is the Lord's internal energy known as Bhusukta, Bhu Shakti. And this expansion of hers known as Prithvi represents the earth. We always worship Venkateshwara with Sri Devi, Bhudevi. Sri Devi is Sri Lakshmi, Bhudevi is Satyabhama. And this Kubje girl is an expansion of Satyabhama. Satyabhama is Prithvi, represents the earth which was bent down by the great burden of countless wicked rulers. Lord Krishna descended to remove these wicked rulers, and thus he pastime of straightening out the hunchback Thrivikra, as explained in these verses, represents his rectifying the burden condition of the earth. At the same time, the Lord awarded Thrivikra a conjugal relation with himself later. In addition to the given meaning, the word Rasa Pradha indicates that the Lord amused his coward boyfriends by his dealings with the young hunchback. Kvatma varorve tadam hanulepanam kasyangane vatakatayastva sadhunaha dehya vayoranga vilepamuttamam shayastataste nacharat bhavishyati. Lord Krishna says, who are you? Oh beautiful third one. Ah, you got Sugandha lepana. Who is it for? My dear lady, please tell us truthfully. Give us but some of your finest Sugandhas, lepana, and you will soon gain great boon. The Lord jokingly addressed the lady as Varuru, O beautiful third one. His joke was not malicious, since he was actually about to make her beautiful. Sairendruvachu, Sairendriya, the Kubjay ಹೇಳಿದರು. Kubjay, the Thrivikra, is telling, Dasyaspraham Sundara Kamsa Sammata Trivikramanama Hainulepaka Madbhavitam Bhojapatera Priyam Vinayuvam Konrati Mastadarhati. So the Kubjay is telling like this. The maid servant Kubjay replied, Oh handsome one, I am a servant of King Kamsa, who highly regards me for the Sugandha lepana ointments to make. My name is Trivikra. Who else but you two deserve my ointments, Gandha, which the Lord of the Bhojas likes so much. So she has told that you both deserve it. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that Trivikra, who is also known as Kubja, used the singular address Sundara, O handsome one, to hint that she felt conjugal desire for Krishna alone, and she used the dual form Yuvam for both of you to try to hide for conjugal sentiment. The hunchback's name was Trivikra, indicates that her body was bent at the neck, chest, and waist, 3 places. That's called Trivikra. Rupapeshla madhurya hasitala vipekshite dashitatmadadau sandramabhayo runalepanam. Her mind overwhelmed by Krishna's beauty, charm, sweetness, smiles, words, and glances. Trivikra gave both Krishna and Balaram generous amounts of Sugandha lepana. This incident is also described in the Vishnu Purana. Hearing this, she respectfully replied to Lord Krishna, please take it, and gave both of them Sugandha lepana suitable for applying to their bodies. Tatastavangaragena Swavarnetara Shobhina Samprapta Varabhagena Kushabate Shuranjita Shushubate Ruranjita. Anointed with these most excellent cosmetics, Sugandha lepana, which adorned both Balarama and Krishna with hues that contrasted with their complexions, the two lords appeared extremely beautiful. The Acharya suggests that Krishna spread yellow ointment upon his body and Balarama blue ointment upon his. Prasanno Bhagavan Kubjam Trivikram Richana Rajranam Rutyum Kurtum Manaschakre Darshayan Darshane Phalam. Lord Krishna was pleased with Trivikra, Kubje, the girl, so he decided to help her, to straighten her body. that hunchbacked girl with the lovely face just to demonstrate the result of seeing him. Padmamakram prapadye dvengulatkana pragragye chumbake bhatma mandanina madachyutaha. Pressing down her toes with his feet, Lord Achyuta placed one upward pointing finger of each hand under her chin and straightened up her body. So he put his foot on her foot, pressed down, and he left both hands below the chin and lift her up. The foot is holding the foot, and both hands are lifting the chin above. So by pulling like that, Lord Krishna make her Thrivikra shape, make a straight line. Simply by Lord Mukunda's touch, Thrivikra was suddenly transformed into an exquisitely beautiful woman with straight, evenly proportioned limbs and large hips and breasts. Tato Rupa Gunaudarya Sampanna Praha Keshavam Uttariyantama Krishna Smayanti Jata Hruchaya. Now endowed with beauty, character, and generosity, Thrivikra began to feel lusty desires for Lord Krishna, Lord Keshava. Taking hold of the end of his upper cloth, she smiled and addressed him as follows. So she is requesting, Yehi Veera Gruham Yavo Natvam Tuktumihotsave Tvayanmitaya Chittaya Prasida Purushashabha. Thrivikra said, Kubje said, come, O hero, let us go to my house. I cannot bear to leave you here. O best of males, please take pity on me, since you have agitated my mind. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti supplies the following conversation. Krishna, is it for the purpose of dining that you are inviting me to your house? Thrivikra said, I simply can't leave you here. Krishna said, but people here on the King's Road will misconstrue what you are saying and laugh. Therefore, please don't speak like this. Thrivikra, I can't help being agitated. You made the mistake of touching me. It is not my fault. Kubje says, you touched my face, you touched my feet. I can't help being agitated. You made the mistake of touching me. Thus entreated by the woman, Lord Krishna first glanced at the face of Balarama, who was watching the incident, and then at the face of the covered boys. Then, with a laugh, Krishna replied to her as follows. Lord Krishna said, O lady with the beautiful eyebrows, as soon as I fulfill my purpose, I will certainly visit your house later time, where men can relieve their anxiety. Indeed, you are the best refuge for us homeless travelers. He himself called homeless travelers. By the word agrahanam, Sri Krishna indicated not only that he had no fixed residence, but also that he was not yet married. Visrujya Mahatma Manetam Rajanna Marge Vaniviktai Nanopayana Tambulam Sadamde Swagruchorchitaha. Leaving her with these sweet words, Lord Krishna walked further down the road. The merchants along the way worshipped him and his elder brother by presenting them with various respectable offerings, including pan, garlands, and fragrant substances. In Mathura, Mathura merchants offered their respects to Lord Krishna. The sight of Krishna aroused Cupid in the hearts of the city women. Thus agitated, they forgot themselves. Their clothes, braids, and bangles became disheveled, and they stood as still as figures in a painting. Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti states that since the women of Mathura immediately experienced symptoms of conjugal attraction when they saw Krishna, they were the most advanced devotees in the city. The 10 effects of Cupid are described as follows. The 10 effects of Cupid are described as follows. Chakshuragaha Pratamam Chitta Sangaha Tatotha Sankalpa Nidra Achedasa Tanuta Vishaya Nivrittis Trapa Nashaha Anmoda Murchaya Vritir iti ya etaha smara dasa daisava shva. First comes attraction expressed through the eyes, then the intense attachment in the mind, then determination, loss of sleep, becoming emaciated, disinterest in external things, shamelessness, madness, becoming stunned, and death. These are the 10 stages of Cupid's effect. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti also points out that devotees who possess pure love of Godhead generally do not exhibit the symptom of death, since this is inauspicious in relation to Krishna. They do, however, manifest the other 9 symptoms, culminating in becoming stunned in ecstasy. Lord Krishna then asked the local people where the arena was in which the bow sacrifice would take place. When he went there, he saw the amazing bow which resembled the Lord's Indras. That most opulent bow was guarded by a large company of men and soldiers who were respectably worshipping it. Krishna pushed his way forward, and despite the gods' attempts to stop him, picked it up. He picked the bow up, easily lifting the bow with his left hand. Lord Urukrama strung it in a fraction of a second as the king's guards looked on. He then powerfully pulled the string and snapped the bow in half, just as an excited elephant might break a stack of sugar cane. So the bow is broken when the Lord Krishna lifts in the left hand. The sound of the bow's breaking filled the earth and sky in all directions. Upon hearing it, Kamsa was struck with terror and wonder. The enraged gods then took up their weapons and, wanting to seize Krishna and his companions, surrounded them and shouted, "Grab him and kill him." So the soldiers around the bow wanted to grab Krishna and to kill him. Seeing the gods coming upon them with evil intent, Balarama and Keshava took up the 2 halves of the bow and began striking them down. After also killing a contingent of soldiers sent by Kamsa, Krishna and Balaram left the sacrificed arena by its main gate and continued their walk about the city, happily looking at the opulent sights. Having witnessed the amazing deed Krishna Balarama had performed, and seeing their strength, boldness, and beauty, the people of the city thought they must be 2 prominent gods. As they strolled about at will, the sun began to set. So they left the city with the cowherd boys and returned to the cowherd's wagon encampment. As they strolled about at will, the sun began to set. So they left the city with the cowherd boys and returned to the cowherd's wagon encampment. Gopyo Mukunda Vigame Virahaturaya Asha Satashisharuto Madhupurya Bhuvan Sampashyatam Purusha Bhushana Gatra Lakshmi Hitvetaran Nu Bujatakshame Yenam Srim. At the time of Mukunda's, that is Krishna's departure from Vrindavan, the gopis had foretold that the residents of Mathura would enjoy many benedictions, and now the gopis' predictions were coming true, for those residents were gazing upon the beauty of Krishna, the jewel among them. Indeed, the goddess of fortune desired the shelter of that beauty so much that she abandoned many other men, although they worshipped her. After Krishna and Balarama's feet were bathed, the 2 lords ate rice with the milk. Then, although knowing that what Kamsa intended to do, they spent the night there comfortably. There is a camping place arranged by Akrura for Krishna and Balarama to stay overnight. Wicked King Kamsa, on the other hand, was terrified, having heard how Krishna and Balarama had broken the bow and killed his guards and soldiers, all simply as a game. He remained awake for a long time, and both while awake and while dreaming, he saw many bad omens, messengers of the death. Adarshanam Swashirasaha Pratirupe cha Satyapi असत्यपि द्वितीये चेत् वैरूप्यं ज्योतिषां तथा छिद्रपतिस्त्रिश्चार्यां प्राणघोषानुपश्यति सुवर्णप्रतीर्थवृक्षेण स्वपधानामदर्शनम् स्वप्ने प्रेतपरिष्वङ्गकरयानं विषादनं यान्नरद माल्ये कलेस्ताभ्यभक्तो दिगम्बरः अन्यानि चेतां भूतानि स्वप्नजागरितानि च पश्यन् मरणसन्त्रस्तो निद्राले पेने चिन्तया. When he looked at his reflection, when Kamsa, he was not able to sleep in the night. When he looked at his reflection, he could not see his head in the mirror. For no reason, the moon and stars appeared double. He saw a hole in his shadow. He could not hear the sound of his life ear. Trees seemed covered with a golden hue, and he could not see his footprints. He dreamt that he was being embraced by ghosts, riding a donkey and drinking poison, and also that a naked man smeared with oil was passing by wearing a garland, narada flowers. Seeing these and other such omens, both while dreaming and while awake, Kamsa was terrified by the prospect of death, and out of anxiety he could not sleep at all. When the night had finally passed and the sun rose up again from the water, Kamsa set about arranging for the grand wrestling festival. Anurcha Purusha Rangam Torye Beryascha Dhere Muncha Manchaschalankೃತ Swagri Patakachalatooranai. The king's men performed the ritual worship of the wrestling arena, sounded their drums and other instruments, and decorated the viewing galleries with garlands, flags, ribbons, and arches. The city dwellers and residents of the outlying districts, led by Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, came and sat down comfortably in the galleries. Royal guests received special seats. Surrounded by his ministers, Kamsa took his seat on the imperial dais, but even as he sat amidst his various provincial rulers, his heart trembled. While the musical instruments loudly played in the rhythmic meters appropriate for wrestling matches, the lavishly ornamented wrestlers proudly entered the arena with their coaches and sat down. Chanuro Mustika Kutaha Shalasturu eva cha ta aseda ruprastanam valgudya praharshita. When they enthused by the pleasing music, Chanura, Mustika, Kuta, Shala, and Toshala sat down on the wrestling mat. Nandagopadayo Gopa Bojaraja Samahutaha Nivedito Payanaste Ekasmin Mancha Vishan. Nanda Maharaja and other cowards summoned by the king of the Bojas presented him with their offerings. They brought milk products, yogurt, buttermilk, and then took their seats in one of the galleries offered by Kamsa. According to Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti, the word Sammutaha indicates that King Kamsa respectively called the leaders of Raja forward so that they could make their offerings to the central government. According to the Acharya, Kamsa assured Nanda as follows: My dear King Raja, King of Raja, you are the most important of my village rulers. And even though you have come to Mathura from your covered village, you have not come to visit me. Is that because you are frightened? Don't think that your two sons are bad because they broke the bow. I invited them here because I heard they were extremely powerful and have arranged this wrestling match as a test of their strength. So please come forward without hesitation. Don't be afraid. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti further states that Nanda Maharaja noticed his two sons were not present. Apparently, out of disrespect for King Kamsa's order, they had taken the morning off and gone elsewhere. Thus, Kamsa delegated some coward men to go look for both Krishna and Balarama, them and advise them to behave properly and come back to the wrestling arena. The Acharya also states that the reason Nanda and the other coward men sat in the galleries was that they could not find any sitting places on the royal dais. Thus end the chapter 42nd chapter of the humble servants of his divine. इति श्रीमद् भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां दशमस्कन्धे पूर्वार्धे मल्लरं गोपवर्णनां नाम द्विचत्वारिंशोऽध्यायः. That is 42nd chapter. In Sanskrit, 42nd is called Dvichatvarimsho Adhyayah. Now we are reaching the 43rd chapter. In the 43rd chapter, discussion will be how Lord Krishna killed the lordly elephant Kuvalayapida, how Krishna and Balarama entered the wrestling arena, and what Krishna said to the wrestler Chanura, and all those things will be coming. So we will continue the 43rd chapter. After finishing their early morning rituals, Krishna and Balarama heard kettle drums heralding the start of wrestling match, and they went to see the festivities. At the gate of the wrestling arena, they encountered an elephant named Kuvalayapida. The Kuvalayapida is a very strong elephant, and it is attacking Lord Krishna. That's why Kamsa arranged it, who attacked Krishna at the urging of his keeper. The mighty elephant grabbed at Krishna with his trunk, but the Lord stood back and then disappeared from the beast's sight among his legs. So he is hidden under the body of the elephant, between the legs. Enraged at not being able to see Krishna, Kuvalayapida sought him out with his sense of smell and seized him. But the Lord pulled loose. In this way, Krishna teased and tormented Kuvalayapida, finally yanking out one of his tusks and beating him and his keepers to death. Sprinkled with elephant's blood and carrying one of his tusks on his shoulder as a weapon, Lord Krishna appeared unprecedentedly beautiful as he entered the wrestling arena. There, the various classes of people now saw him in different ways, according to their specific relationship with him. When King Kamsa heard now Krishna and Balarama had killed Kuvalayapida, big elephant, he realized they were invincible and became filled with anxiety and fear. The members of the audience, on the other hand, became joyful as they reminded one another about the Lord's amazing pastimes. The people declared that Krishna and Balarama must be two expansions of the Supreme Lord, Narayana, who had descended into the house of Vasudeva. So when they came to arena, Balarama had one danta of this elephant, Krishna had one elephant on his shoulder. Both were carrying elephant teeth, danta, the long teeth. Krishna replied. Chanura then stepped forward and challenged Krishna and Balarama to wrestle, saying, King Kamsa wished to see such a match. Krishna replied, although we are merely nomadic forest folk, we are nonetheless subjects of the king. Thus, we will not hesitate to please him with an exhibition of wrestling. As soon as Chanura heard this, he suggested that Krishna should wrestle him and that Balarama should wrestle Mustika. So, Shuka uvacha Ata Krishnascha Ramascha Kutashocho Parantapaha Malladundubi Nirghosham Shrutva Drustamupeyataha. Shukadeva Goswami said to Parikshit, O chastiser of enemies, Krishna and Balarama, having executed all necessary purification, then heard the kettle drums resounding at the wrestling arena. They went there to see what was happening. Srila Sridhara Swami explains the words Krita Swacho, having executed all necessary purification as follows. 2 days previously, Krishna and Balarama executed their purification. They relieved from offense by performing heroic deeds. The Lord's reasoned, even after we have made our power known by breaking the bow and by performing other feats, Our parents have still not secured freedom. Kamsa is again trying to kill them. Therefore, although he is our maternal uncle, it will not be wrong for us to kill him. They assured their offenselessness by this reasoning. When Lord Krishna reached the entrance to the arena, he saw the elephant Kuvalayapida blocking his way at the urging of his keeper. I told a brief summary before the beginning of the chapter with Shloka. The elephant keeper revealed his malicious intent by blocking Lord Krishna's entrance to the arena. He saw the elephant Kuvalayapida blocking his way as the urging of his keeper. Securely binding up his clothes and tying back his curly locks, Lord Krishna addressed the elephant keeper with words as grave as the rumbling of a cloud. Lord Krishna was obviously preparing for a fight. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, the Lord put aside his jacket, tightened his belt, and tied back his hair. Lord Krishna said, O driver, move aside at once and let us pass. If you don't, this very day, I will send both you and your elephant to the abode of Yamaraja. Thus threatened, the elephant keeper became angry. He goaded his furious elephant, who appeared equal to time, death, and Yamaraja, into attacking Lord Krishna. He charged the elephant to attack. The Lord of the Elephants charged Krishna and violently seized him with his trunk. But Krishna slipped away, struck him a blow, disappeared from his view among his legs. Lord Krishna struck the elephant with his first fist and then disappeared between the legs. Infuriated at being unable to see Lord Keshava, the elephant sought him out with his sense of smell. Once again, Kuvalayapida seized the Lord with the end of his trunk, and only to have the Lord forcefully free himself. Lord Krishna allowed the elephant to seize him so that the beast would be encouraged to keep fighting. Once the Kuvalayapida had thus become proud, Lord Krishna again thwarted him with his superior potency. Lord Krishna then grabbed the powerful Kuvalayapida by the tail and playfully dragged him 25 bow lengths as easily as Garuda might drag a snake. As Lord Achyuta held on the elephant's tail, the animal tried to twist away to the left, to the right, making the Lord swerve in the opposite direction as a young boy would swerve when pulling a calf by the tail. Krishna then came face to face with the elephant and slapped him and ran away. Kuvalayapida pursued the Lord, managing to touch him again and again with each step, but Krishna outmaneuvered the elephant and made him trip and fall. As Krishna dodged about, he playfully fell on the ground and quickly got up again. The raging elephant, thinking Krishna was down, tried to gore him with his tusk, but struck the earth instead. Elephant came to struck Krishna, but Krishna escaped, but he thrust the ground. His prowess foiled. The lordly elephant Kuvalayapida went into frenzied rage out of frustration, but the elephant keepers goaded him on, and he furiously charged Krishna once again. The Supreme Lord Killer of the demon Madhu confronted the elephant as he attacked. Seizing his trunk with one hand, Krishna threw him to the ground. So Krishna was able to throw an elephant on the ground. Lord Hari then climbed onto the elephant with the ease of a mighty lion, pulled out a tusk, and with it killed the beast and his keepers. Leaving the dead elephant aside, Lord Krishna held onto the tusk and entered the wrestling arena. With the tusk resting on his shoulder, drops of the elephant's blood and sweat sprinkled all over him, and his lotus face covered with fine drops, and his own perspiration the Lord shone with a great beauty. My dear King, Lord Baladeva and Lord Janardana each carrying one of the elephant tusks on their shoulder, has chosen weapon, entered the arena with several coward boys. This shloka is nice. Mallanama Nirnanam Naravaraha Srinam Smaro Murtiman Gopanam Sojano Satam Kshitibhujam Shasta Sopitro Shishuhu Mrutyor Bhojapater Vida Virada Vidusham Tattvam Param Yoginam Prishtinam Paradevateti Vidito Rangam Gata Sagrajaha. The various groups of people in the arena regarded Krishna in different ways. When he entered it with his elder brother Balarama, the wrestlers saw Krishna as a lightning bolt and the men of Mathura as the best of males, the woman as Cupid in the person, the coward men as their relative, the impious rulers as a chastiser, his parents as their child, the king of the Bhojas as death, the unintelligent as the Supreme Lord's universal form, the yogis as the absolute truth, and the Vrishnis as their supreme worshipable deity. So everybody thinks Krishna in their own way, in their own feelings. That's what explained in the 17th sloka. Srila Sridhara Swami quotes the following verse, which explains the 10 attitudes toward Krishnas described here. There are 10 different modes: fury perceived by the wrestlers, wonder by the men, conjugal attraction for the woman, laughter the cowards, chivalry the kings, mercy his parents, terror for Kamsa, ghastliness the unintelligent, peaceful neutrality, the yogis, and loving devotion the Vrishnis. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti points out that the people like the wrestlers, Kamsa, and the impious rulers perceive Krishna as dangerous, angry, or threatening because they fail to understand the actual position of the personality of Godhead. Actually, Lord Krishna, the actual position of the personality of Godhead. Actually, the Lord Krishna is everyone's friend and well-wisher, but because we rebel against him, he chastises us, and thus we may perceive him as threatening. Krishna, or God, is actually merciful, and when he punishes us, that is also his mercy. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura quotes the following Vedic statements: Raso vai sa rasam he evam labdo vanandi bhavati. He himself is a rasa, the taste of or a mellow of a particular relationship, and certainly one who achieves this rasa becomes anandi, filled with bliss. Taittiriya Upanishad says like this. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati quotes a further verse to explain the word rasa. Rasa means which is beyond imagination, heavy with wonder and relished in the heart, shining with goodness. Such is known as rasa. Rasa. Sri Srila Gopa Goswami elaborately explains in his Bhaktis Rasamrita Sindhu there are 5 main rasas: neutrality, servitude, friendship, parental love, and conjugal love, and 7 secondary rasas: amazement, humor, chivalry, compassion, fury, fear, and dread. Thus, altogether, there are 12 rasas, and the supreme object of them all is Sri Krishna himself. In other words, our love and affection are actually meant for Sri Krishna. Unfortunately, out of ignorance, we subordinately try to squeeze happiness and love out of material relationship, which are not directly connected to Lord Krishna. And thus, life becomes a constant frustration. The solution is simple: surrender to Krishna, love Krishna's devotees, and help the devotees of Krishna, and be happy forever. That is what Bhakti Marga, Bhakti Veda, and Bhakti Yoga explains. That is Bhakti Yoga. You need to help other devotees of Lord Krishna in all the aspects, whatever is possible, and then they will be happy, and you will be happy, and Krishna will be made happy as well. When Krishna saw that Kuvalayapida was dead and the 2 brothers were invincible, he was overwhelmed with anxiety. O king, Tau rejato gangagato mahabhujau vichitraveshabharanastam gambharau yatanata vruttame yashadharinau manakshipanto prabhayadirikshitam. That is the 19th sloka of this chapter. arrayed and variegated ornaments, garlands, and garments, just like a pair of excellently costumed actors, the two mighty armed lords, Balarama and Lord Krishna, shone splendidly in the arena. Indeed, they overpowered the minds of all onlookers with their effulgences. So they are in the arena, O king, as the citizens of the city and the people from outlying districts gazed upon those two supreme personalities from their seats in the galleries. The force of the people's happiness caused their eyes to open wide and their faces to blossom. They drank in the vision of the Lord's faces without becoming satiated. The people seemed to be drinking Krishna and Balarama with their eyes, licking them with their tongues, smelling them with their nostrils, and embracing them with their arms. Reminded of the Lord's beauty, character, charm, and bravery, the members of the audience began describing these features to one another according to what they had seen and heard. Naturally, those who assembled in Mathura for the wrestling festival had heard the latest news of Krishna's and Balarama's adventures in the city, how the lords had broken the sacrificial bow, defeated the police and army, killed the elephant Kuvalayapida, and now that the people were seeing Krishna and Balarama enter the wrestling arena, their greatest expectations were confirmed. Krishna is the embodiment of all beauty, fame, opulence, and therefore those assembled in the wrestling arena became fully satisfied by glorifying what they had heard of him and were now seeing. The people who are watching Krishna are very, very satisfied that Krishna is able to kill the king elephant, Kuvalayapida, and all the soldiers they were able to kill. So they found he was a brave boy. हेतो भगवता साक्षात् वरेण्य नारायणस्य हि अवतीर्ण विहांशेन वसुदेवस्य वेश्मनि. So the people said these two boys are certainly expansion of the Supreme Lord Narayana who have descended to this world in the home of Vasudeva. That's what the people said in this sloka. 24th sloka, Yesha Vaikila Devakyam Jato Nitascha Gokulam Kalametam Vasan Ghodo Bruddhade Barude Nandaveshwani. This one, Kamsa took birth from mother Devaki and was brought to the Gokula where he was remained concealed all this time, growing up in the house of King Nanda. That's what one fellow said. पूतन अनेनी नीतातम चक्रभातश्च दानवः अर्जुनो गुह्यतम केशी धेनुकोऽन्यो च दिद्भिदा. He made Putana and the whirlwind demon meet with death, pulled down the twin Arjuna trees, and killed Shankachuda, Keshi, Dhenuka, and similar demons. So they were all understood that Krishna has done all these pastimes in Gokula. He saved the cows and the cowards from the forest fire and subdued the serpent Kaliya. He removed Lord Indra's false pride by holding up the best of mountains, Govardhana hill, with one hand for an entire 7 days, thus protecting the inhabitants of Gokula from rain, wind, and hailstone. The gopis overcame all kinds of distress and experienced great happiness by seeing his face, which is always cheerful, with smiling glances and ever free of fatigue. It is said that under his full protection, the Edu dynasty will become extremely famous and attain wealth, glory, and power. The lotus-eyed elder brother of his Lord Balarama is the proprietor of all transcendental opulences. He has killed Pralamba Asura, Vatakasura, Vatsakasura, Bakasura, and other demons. In fact, 2 of the demons mentioned here were killed by Krishna, not Balarama. The reason for the mistake is that As news Krishna's exploits spread among ordinary people, the facts became somewhat muddled. The same tendency can be observed in modern newspapers also. While the people talked in this way and the musical instruments resounded, the wrestler Chanura addressed Krishna and Balarama with the following words. Chanura could not tolerate that the audience was praising Krishna so highly. Therefore, he had to say something to the two brothers. O son of Nanda, O Rama, Chanura says telling this. Chanura wrestler is telling, O son of Nanda, O Rama, you two are well respected by courageous men and are both skillful at wrestling. Having heard of your prowess, the king has called you here, wanting to see for himself. Subjects of the king who try to please him with their thoughts, acts, and words are sure to achieve good fortune, but those who fail to do so will suffer the opposite fate. For the king embodies all living beings. Hearing this, Lord Krishna, who liked to wrestle and welcomed the challenge, replied with words appropriate to the time and place. Lord Krishna says, although we are forest dwellers, we are also subjects of the Bhoja king. We must gratify his desire, for such behavior will confer upon you the greatest benefit. We are just young boys and should play with those equal strength. The wrestling match must go on properly so that irreligion does not taint the respectable members of the audience. Chanura says, you are not really a child or even a young man, and neither is a Balarama, the strongest of the strong. After all, you playfully killed an elephant who had the strength of 1,000 other elephants. Therefore, you two should fight powerful wrestlers. There is certainly nothing unfair about that. You, O descendant of Vrishni, can show your prowess against me, and Balarama can fight with Mustika. Thus ended the chapter 43rd of Dashamaskanda. Iti Srimad Mahabhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsam Samhitayam Dashamaskande Purvarde Kuvalayapida Nama Trichatvarim Shodhyayaha. 43rd chapter is finished. We are reaching the 44th chapter now. The wrestling of killing of Kamsa and wrestling or this chapter. This chapter tells how Krishna and Balarama killed the wrestlers, how Krishna killed Kamsa and consoled Kamsa's wife, and how the two lords were reunited with their mother and father. Deciding to wrestle, Lord Krishna faced off against Chanura, and Lord Baladeva Balarama took on Mustika. Battling arm to arm, head to head, knee to knee, chest to chest, his opponents attacked each other so fiercely that they appeared to be harming even their own bodies. The ladies in the arena, seeing this violent battle, began to condemn the king Kamsa and all the members of the assembly. A respectable audience should never have allowed a wrestling match between such a huge wrestlers whose limbs are as tough as lightning bolts and such tender young boys who are just entering youth. An intelligent person should never enter an assembly if he sees injustice being done there. Because of Vasudeva and Devaki did not fully understand the power of Krishna and Balarama, they became extremely unhappy when they heard the woman of the audience speak of these words. Sri Krishna then grabbed Chanura's arms, whirled him down around several times, and threw him to the ground, killing him. Mustika met a similar fate. After being struck powerfully by Lord Balarama's palms, he began vomiting blood and then fell down dead. Thereupon, the wrestlers named Kuta, Sala, and Tosala came forward, but Krishna and Balaram easily killed them also with the blows of their fist and feet. The remaining wrestlers, fearing for their lives, all fled away. Except for Kamsa, everyone present cheered Krishna and Balarama in the arena and in the field. The king, in a rage, stopped the festive music and ordered that Vasudeva, Nanda, Ugrasena, and all the cowards be severely punished, and that Krishna and Balarama be driven from the assembly. Krishna became furious when he heard Kamsa speak this way and he instantly leapt onto the lofty royal dais. He grabbed Kamsa by the hair, hurled him down onto the floor of the arena wrestling ring, and threw himself on top of him. In this way, Kamsa met his death. Because out of fear, Kamsa had always thought of Krishna. After his death, he gained the liberation of having form like the Lord's. Kamsa's 8 brothers then attacked Krishna and Balarama, easily killed each of them with his club, just as a lion kills defenseless animals. Kettle drums resounded in the sky as the joyful gods rained down flowers and chanted the glories of Lord Krishna and Lord Balarama. From the heaven, the wives of Kamsa, grieving of their husband, lamented that he had died because of his violence toward other living beings and his lack of respect for Krishna, the Supreme Soul, who creates, maintains, and destroys the entire universe. The Lord consoled the widows, had the funeral rites performed for Kamsa and his brothers, and then released his mother and father from bondage. Krishna offered obeisances at his parents' feet, but they now understanding him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead and did not embrace him. So this is the summary of the 44th chapter, and I am reading the shloka one after the other now. Sri Shuka Uvacha Yevam Charchita Sankalpo Bhagavan Madhusudanaha Asasadata Chanuram Mustikam Rohine Sutaha. Shuka Maharshi is telling this to Parikshit Maharaj. Shuka Maharaj says, thus addressed Lord Krishna made up his mind to accept the challenge. He paired off with Chanura and Lord Balarama with Mustika. Seizing each other's hands, locking legs with each other, the opponents struggled powerfully, eager for victory. They each struck fist against fist, knees against knees, head against head, and chest against chest. That's how the wrestling match started. The word artani in this verse may indicate the elbow as well as the fist. Thus, blows were perhaps also struck with elbow, a technique seen today in the various martial arts. Each fighter contended with his opponent by dragging him about in circles, shoving and crushing him, throwing him down and running before and behind him. Srila Sridhara Swami explains that the word parirambha indicates crushing one's opponent with one's arms. Forcefully lifting and carrying each other, pushing each other away and holding each other down. The fighters hurt even their own bodies in their great eagerness for victory. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that although Krishna and Balarama did not, of course, harm themselves, it appeared that way to Chanura, Mustika, and others of mundane vision. In other words, the lords were fully absorbed in the pastime of being wrestlers. My dear king, all the women present, considering that match as an unfair fight between the strong and the weak, felt extreme anxiety due to the compassion. They assembled in groups around the arena and spoke to one another as follows. The woman said, alas, what a greatly irreligious act the members of this royal assembly are committing. As the king watches this fight between the strong and the weak, they also want to see it. The idea the ladies were expressing is that even if the king somehow wanted to see such an unfair match, why should the respectable members of the assembly also desire to see it? These feelings are natural. Even nowadays, if in a public space we find a violent fight going on between the various very strong and large person and a weaker small person, we are aroused in the indignation. Compassionate women are especially offended and enraged by such unfair violence. What comparison can there be between these two professional wrestlers with limbs as strong as lightning bolts and bodies resembling mighty mountains, and those two young immature boys with exceedingly tender limbs? Religious principles have certainly been violated in this assembly. One should not remain for even a moment in place where the irreligion flourishing in this place. A wise person should not enter an assembly if he knows that the participants there are committing acts impropriety, and if having entered such an assembly he fails to speak the truth, speaks falsely, or pleads ignorance, he will certainly incur sin. Just to see the lotus face of Lord Krishna as he darts around his foe, the face covered with the drops of perspiration brought on by the strenuous fight resembles a lotus covered with a dew. Don't you see the face of Lord Balarama with its eyes copper red from his anger toward Mustika, and its beauty enhanced by his laughter and his absorption in the fight? As the woman spoke thus, O hero of the Bharatas, Lord Krishna, the master of all mystic power, made up his mind to kill his opponent. Out of affection for the two lords, their parents Devaki and Vasudeva became overwhelmed with sorrow when they heard the woman's fearful statements. They grieved, not knowing their son's strength. Naturally, Krishna's parents would lament in this situation, thinking, why did not we keep our sons at home? Why did we allow them to participate in this corrupt exhibition? Devaki is worried. Lord Balarama and Mustika, expertly displaying numerous wrestling techniques, battled each other in the same way that Lord Krishna and his opponent did. The harsh blows from the Supreme Lord's limbs fell like crushing lightning bolts upon the Chanura, breaking every part of his body, causing him more and more pain and fatigue. Furious Chanura attacked Lord Vasudeva with the speed of a hawk and struck his chest with both fists. It appears that Chanura, realizing he was being defeated, became furious and made a final attempt to defeat Lord Krishna. The demon certainly had the spirit of a good fighter, but if he hoped for victory, he was certainly in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person. No more shaken by the demon's mighty blows than an elephant struck with a flower garland, Lord Krishna grabbed Chanura by his arms, swung him around several times, and hurled him onto the ground with a great force. His clothes, hair, and garland scattering, the wrestler fell down dead like a huge festival column collapsing. Srilala Sridhara Swami explains the words Indradvaja as follows. In Bengal, on the occasion of certain festival, people erect a tall column in the form of a man and decorate it with flags, banners, etc. Chanura fell just as such a pole might fall. Similarly, Mustika struck Lord Balarama with his fist and was slain. Receiving a violent blow from the mighty Lord's palm, the demon trembled all over in great pain, vomited blood, and then fell lifeless onto the ground like a thunderbolt, like a tree blown down the wind. Confronted next by the wrestler Kuta, Lord Balarama, the best fighters, playfully and nonchalantly killed him with his left fist, O king. Then Krishna struck the wrestler Shala in the head with his toes and tore him in half. The Lord dealt with Toshala in the same way, and both wrestlers fell down dead. Chanura, Mustika, Kuta, Sala, Tosala having been killed, the remaining wrestlers all fled from their lives. The other wrestlers ran away, seeing the atrocities happened by Krishna and Balarama to the existing wrestlers. Krishna and Balarama then called their young covered friends to join them, and in their company the lords danced about and sported. Their ankle bells resounding as musical instruments played. Nowadays, we see that in the championship boxing matches, as soon as there is a victory, all the friends and relatives of the victorious boxer rush into the ring to congratulate him, and often the champion will dance about in great happiness. Exactly in this mode, Krishna and Balarama danced about celebrating their victory with their friends and relatives. Nowadays, yeah. Janaha prajaushuho sarve karmana Ramakrishnayo. Irate kamsam vipramukhya sadhuva sadhu sadvitihi. Everyone except Kamsa rejoiced at wonderful feat of Krishna and Balarama had performed. The exalted Brahmanas and great saints exclaimed, "Excellent, excellent." It's understood that as the best of Brahmanas and saints were exclaiming, "Excellent, excellent," the worst of Brahmanas, namely Kamsa's priests, were seriously grieving. The Bhoja king Kamsa, seeing that his best wrestlers had all been killed or had fled, stopped the musical performance originally meant for his pleasure and spoke the following words. Kamsa is telling his soldiers, "Drive the two wicked sons of Vasudeva out of the city, confiscate Kavar's property and arrest that fool Nanda. Kill that most evil fool Vasudeva and also kill my father Ugrasena along with his followers who have all sided with our enemies." As Kamsa thus shouted so audaciously, the infallible Lord Krishna, intensely angry, quickly and easily jumped up onto the high royal dais. Seeing Lord Krishna approaching like a death personified, the quick-witted Kamsa instantly rose from his seat and took up his sword and shield. Sword in the hand, Kamsa moved quickly from side to side like a hawk in the sky, but the Lord Krishna, whose fearsome strength is irresistible, powerfully seized the demon just as the son of Tarksha might capture a snake. Grabbing Kamsa by the hair and knocking off his crown, the lotus-nailed Lord Krishna threw him off the elevated dais into the wrestling mat. Then the independent Lord, the support of the entire universe, threw himself upon the king. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada describes the death of Kamsa as follows. Krishna at once straddled his chest and began to strike him over and over again. Simply from the stroke of his fist, Kamsa lost his vital force. As a lion drags dead elephant, the Lord then dragged Kamsa's dead body along the ground in full view of everyone present. O king, all the people in the arena tumultuously cried out, "Oh, oh." Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti explains that many people in the audience thought Kamsa had simply been knocked unconscious when thrown from the loft dais. Therefore, the audience astonishment is also mentioned in the Vishnu Purana also. Then the entire arena became filled with cries of astonishment as people saw that master of Mathura had been contemptuously killed by Lord Krishna. Kamsa had always been disturbed by the thought that Supreme Lord was to kill him. Therefore, when drinking, eating, moving about, sleeping, or simply breathing, the king had always seen Lord Krishna before him with the disc weapon in his hand. Thus, Kamsa achieved the rare boon of attaining a form like the Lord's. Although born out of fear, Kamsa's constant meditation on the Supreme Lord eradicated all his offenses, and therefore the demon Kamsa was liberated upon his death at the Lord's hands. Kamsa's 8 younger brothers, led by Kanka and Naigrodhaka, then attacked the lords in a rage, seeking to avenge their brother's death. As they ran swiftly toward the two lords, ready to strike, the son of Rohini slew them and his club, just as a lion easily kills other animals. Kettle drums resounded in the sky as Brahma, Shiva, and other gods, the Lord's expansions, rained down flowers upon Lord Krishna with pleasure. They chanted his praises and their wives danced. Tesham Sriho Maharaja Safranmarana Dukkita Tatrabhirvignanta Shirshanyashtu Vilochanaha. My dear king, the wives of Kamsa and his brothers, aggrieved by the death of their well-wishing husband, came forward with tearful eyes, beating their heads. Embracing their husbands, who lay on a hero's final bed, the sorrowful woman loudly lamented while shedding constant tears. Ha nata priya dharmajna karuna nata vatsalaha tvaya hatena nihatam vayam te swagruha praja. The woman cried out, Alas, O master, O dear one, O knower of religious principles, O kind and uncompassionate protector of the shelterless, by your being slain, we have also been slain, together with your household and offspring. O great hero among men, bereft of you, its master, this city has lost its beauty, just as we have, and all festivity and good fortune within it have come to an end. Anagasam tva bhutanam krutavan drohamalpanam tena mam bho badasham nito bhutadruk go labetasham. O dear one, you have been brought to this state because of the terrible violence you committed against innocent creatures. How can one who harms others attain happiness? Having expressed their sentimental grief, the ladies now speak practical wisdom. They are beginning to see the things realistically because their minds were purified by the agony of the recent events and by the association of Lord. Sarveshamiha bhutanameshesha prabhavaskayah gopta chatavadhyayi nakachit sukhamedate. 48 sloka. Lord Krishna causes the appearance and disappearance of all beings in this world, and he is their maintainer as well. One who disrespects him can never prosper happily. Shuka uvacha rajayoshita ashvastra bhagavan loka bhavanaha ya mahalorkikim samstahatanham samakarayat. After consoling the royal ladies, Lord Krishna, sustainer of all the worlds, arranged for the prescribed funeral rites to be performed for Kamsa. Mataram pitaram chaiva mochayitpata bandhanat Krishna ramodara bhavam dhaute shirasasprishya padayo devaki vasudevascha vijnaya jagadishwaro kudsambandano patra swastajate tatankito. Then Krishna and Balarama released their mother and father from the bondage and offered obeisances unto them, touching their feet with their hands. Devaki vasudevascha vijnaya jagadishwaro krita sambandano putro swaswajatena shankitaho. Here they worshipped their parents in the prison. They came to release Devaki and Vasudeva in the prison. Devaki and Vasudeva, now knowing Krishna and Balaram to be the lords of the universe, simply stood with joyed palms. Being apprehensive, they did not embrace their son. They were apprehensive, they were surprised. Thus ends the 44th chapter of Dashamaskanda. Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsam Samhitayam Dashamaskande Purvarde Kamsavado Nama Chatushvatvaramshodhyayaha Chatushtvatvarimshodhyayah. We came to the 45th chapter. We are going to continue the Balarama Krishna Upanayanam and Gurukula Pravesha. They go to Gurukula after their Upanayanam in the next chapter, 45th chapter. Om Keshwaya Namaha, Narayana Namaha, Madhavaya Namaha, Govindaya Namaha, Vishnuve Namaha, Matsudaya Namaha, Trivikramaya Namaha, Vavaraya Namaha, Sridharaya Namaha, Hrishikeshaya Namaha, Padmanabhaya Namaha, Damodaraya Namaha, Sankarshnaya Namaha, Vasudevaya Namaha, Pradyumnaya Namaha, Niruddhaya Namaha, Purushottamaya Namaha, Dokshaya Namaha, Narasimhaya Namaha, Achyutaya Namaha, Janardhanaya Namaha, Upendraya Namaha, Hare Namaha, Sri Krishnaya Namaha. Namo नमोस्तु अनंताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादाक्षिशो बाहुवे सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाष्टये सहस्रकोटियुगधारिणे नमः सहस्रकोटियुगधारिणे नमः आकाशात् परितं यथागतसागरं सर्वदेव नमस्कारः श्रीकेशवं श्रीशेषवं प्रजगत्यो नमः सर्ववेदेषु पुण्यं सर्वतीर्थेषु यत्फलं तत्फलं पुण्यमाप्ति वासनात् वासुदेवस्य वासन्ते जगत्रयं सर्वभूतनिवासोऽसि वासुदेवस्ते कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि नारायणायेति समर्पयामि नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Hari Om Tat Sat. This ends the 44th chapter. Tomorrow we are reading 45th chapter. Thanks for listening to us. Thank you very much. Hari Om Tat Sat.